question, perhaps two. We can make these really quick,
Okay,
not to rush you, sir.
Okay. My name is Julius Lawrence. I'm a citizen of Syracuse. I've been in Syracuse the past 50 years or so, working with many different programs in the city of Syracuse. I also was the last person to leave with Kennedy Square. My program ran Kennedy Square for a while. We had a lot of families in that. Also, I worked with CDAC program. We was one of the persons who have started CDAC, and also worked with the TNT program in the city of Syracuse. I worked with every administration, basically, all the way from Lear Design Administration all the way to Second Mile Administration, and all the citizen cabinet and stuff like that. My question is this. We hear a lot about what's going on with the Family Dollar matter, and we know that there's a lot of things that are going on with that. And what do you plan to do about, like now we make sure about the family, about the price right, do the right thing, which you're going to do the right thing. What are you going to do about these Family Dollars that now that they have here, make sure that they follow, help out and do what they're doing? Who does it? The Family Dollar stores, they're having a lot of problems with the Family Dollar stores in the city of Syracuse right now. And it seems like they're not getting, I don't know, people might not be getting the response that we need to get from them about cleaning their stuff and keeping the place clean. Seem like they're doing it in other places and they're getting, getting the work done, but in the city of Syracuse, it doesn't seem like they're responding like they should.
Start with Mr. Wright on the end.
I'm confused in regards to the question. What is your...
The question about the Family Dollar store, what are you planning to do about the one that we already built in the city of Syracuse, in this side of town? How are you going to deal with that issue that is going on now? Because of the fact they don't seem to be responding to the people who are questioning it now.
Well,
Does that make sense what I'm saying? Excuse me? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I see what you're trying to ask. But there's several, just on Salina alone, there's approximately like three, four Family Dollars. And I don't know if you're referring to a particular Family Dollar?
All of them, Southside.
So all of them leaving trash behind?
You go there, you can see a lot of trash. Especially early in the morning when you go.
All right, that's an issue that, that our code department will address. We can, bring this issue to code and see what violations are that's occurring. In regards to the trash.
I'm just concerned about they're taking care of the Family Dollar stores in other areas and they're not doing it on the south side of Syracuse.
For the sake of time, if you can answer as expeditiously as possible, we do have to move it on.
Yeah, well, we will, like I said, that's an issue that I'll bring to court, code enforcement, and if there is violations, they will be addressed.
It's funny when we talk about the Family Dollar, we've been having this same conversation about corner stores for years, So we have a big problem with litter coming from businesses in general. And, maybe we need to take a better look at how we, as a counselor, I guess as your district counselor, my responsibility would be to come to the meetings, get the feedback from you, and make communication with the owners of the store, if necessary, and through our codes department. But then when I sit down in the council office with the at-large counselors and we have larger scale conversations about what we can do to force our hand as far as mandating that these businesses, adhere to our code standards, that's a conversation I'll be a part of. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. I think what you got to do is you got to talk to the codes department, you got to talk to the businesses, you got to get everyone together, and you got to make them do a better job. And if they don't do a better job, then you bump it up to something else. But I think that's on a micro level, and on a macro level, as a district counselor, you need to be accessible. You need to have your phone number out there, you need to have your email out there, and if people feel like there's property owners that aren't taking care of their property, and that's affecting the neighboring properties, because if one part of the street looks like crap, then the rest of it might go downhill too. So you just need to be accessible and need to be able to, talking to the right city department heads to be able to make a change.
To address your question, I don't believe it's just a Family Dollar issue. It's all the businesses within the South Side, and then also the property owners. So I think it's just everyone has to be held accountable into making sure that their properties are taken care of. as a district counselor, going back to, I think we already visited this conversation earlier, speaking to the correct department heads and making sure that they reach out to their property owners. If you have to cite them, then that would be on their behalf. But as a district counselor, just making sure that we're communicating with our community and making sure that we present to these companies that come in how we want them to take care of our communities. So if we as Southside residents take care of our own properties, then we won't allow outside people to come in and destroy our neighborhoods and they can just feel like they can treat it any old kind of way. The pride starts with us making sure that we're taking care of our communities first, and then other people will respect it and follow suit.
That concludes this section of the forum, so let's give all of our candidates a round of applause. They're going to have a seat. Now we're going to have our at-large candidates come up, and also our candidate for president. And in the interim, let me just clarify something. A couple of things were said about lead. We know that lead is a neurotoxin, so a couple people mentioned death. The concentrations to kill you would have to be astronomically high, but they would have to be astronomically high because you know that lead exposure leads to serious consequences in terms of informing erratic behavior, affecting aptitude. Many people are making the argument that it contributes to the school-to-prison pipeline. So I just want to make that clarification because I know somebody here has a microphone and I didn't want to let that slide because it will be front page news. All right, we're going to start with my far left again. We're going to give each candidate 1 minute to introduce themselves and explain why they're here tonight.
Well, good evening. My name is Gary Morris. Good evening. My name is Gary Morris, and I'm running for council at large, a citywide race. And why I'm here tonight, I really don't know. I did not receive the email. I just got back in town, and they lost my luggage. I'm really having a hard night tonight. And so I'm here. I'm not shaved, and we couldn't fly to Syracuse. The weather was bad. We had to fly to Rochester. Then I drove from Rochester at 1 o'clock in the morning. Me and my wife were arguing at each other because we was at the airport all night, all day. Just ridiculous. But I'm running for council at large, and this is my second run for this particular position. And I think what's more important to understand is that I am indigenous to this area, born and raised. I'm from a very, very large family here locally. Graduate of Corcoran High School, McKinley, Brighton, Clary, and ran around these streets as a little kid and still around here today. And I think the value that Gary Morris would bring for this community is the value that you all would want from any constituent or any public servant. And that's the value of wealth, the value of encouraging you and showing you or informing you how we can create wealth in our community and in our city as a whole. So I thank you and I look forward to the question.
Mr. Rudd?
My name is Tim Rudd. I'm running for councilor at large. Thank you everyone for coming out on this evening when it's nice outside and being tired and all that. I'm here because I think we can do better. I think we need people who have strong public finance experience, who will protect the city's credit and make it so that we can make the investments that we need to in our people and in our infrastructure. I'm born and raised in Syracuse. I went to Henniger High School. I went to SU. I got a master's in public administration from the Maxwell School. I then lived and worked in New York City for about 7 years. I managed a large public budget there. I've worked for a social policy research organization doing benefit cost work that I think is a skill set that is very valuable on the council. So evaluating the investments that we can make, I think we can make smarter, better investments. We need to make smarter, better investments. We need to help our people escape poverty. We need to help our neighborhoods escape poverty. we can do it, and I hope to show that over the next time.
Hello. First, I want to say thank you for organizing this forum, and I want to thank everybody that came out tonight. My name is Helen Hudson. I am running for president of the Common Council. I am now a sitting at-large counselor. I've been on the council for 6 years. And I'm running for president because I see that role as something that I can take and shape into another direction. I think that as president of the council, that will give me an opportunity to not just work with the community, the businesses, the administration. It will give me an opportunity to bring these pieces together and work with developers and talk about creating. We have to bring in revenue. We have to create another system. And this would give me an opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Hello, I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Khalid Bey. I am currently the city councilor for the 4th Council District, approaching 7 years in November. Born and raised here, grew up in Central Village, graduated Corcoran High School. Cougars. Yeah. And have, enjoyed the time on the council. I'm also a member of the Syracuse Regional Airport Authority, president of the Syracuse Strong football team here, which is a 501c3. Small business owner, 111 Advisors, which is a communication management firm. Also on a publishing and print, written and published 8 books myself. Prior to this, worked in New York State Senate for the Democratic Conference, and I am here to understand and inspire, period.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me as well. My name is Frank Satira. I'm running for at-large candidate on the Green Party ticket. I am a resident of the Near West Side. That's to say I am not from any particular neighborhood in particular. I have moved to Syracuse in 2006, and since I've been here, I have lived and worked in just about every quadrant of the city. So I feel like I have a good understanding of the city as a whole, and that I would be a good representative for the city as a whole because of that. I have been working in the city for about a decade now. I am the board delegate from the West Side for Tomorrow's Neighborhoods Today. I am the citywide vice chair for TNT as well. I have been working on electoral campaigns since 2010. Everything from feet on the ground, boots on the street, knocking on doors, to volunteer coordinator, to finance coordinator, and to campaign. Actually ran in 2015 for the 2nd District as well. So I appreciate your time tonight, and I look forward to answering some questions as well.
All right, thank you all. My first question to this group is about access. So if we think back very recently, a major national publication ranked Syracuse as a top 30 city in the country to live in. But through conversations, through talking to folks in the know, particularly folks in this room, they would argue that the South Side, this particular neighborhood, is locked out of many of the accoutrements that come with being a top 30 city in this country. Is this a top 30 city in the country? And if not, how do we, or if it is, how do we make sure that everybody has part of that narrative? And we'll start with you, sir.
Absolutely not. We have the highest levels of segregation and poverty among poor Latinos, blacks, and whites, and we are not a top 30 city, and we won't be until we solve those issues. How are we going to do that? Well, we have to be creative, first of all. We can look at legislation changes that will bring more money into our city. For example, the creation of a community development office that will work particularly on worker cooperative businesses and worker-owned businesses. I sat in this room in 2012 and 2013 where I organized and hosted the first ever upstate-wide conference on cooperative businesses with over 100 people each year. I'm currently working with Senator Valesky on legislation language to enable more services from the SBDC, who is my employer where I work as a business advisor, to help facilitate the transition of baby boomer businesses to worker-owned, which will stabilize jobs and create long-term jobs in this neighborhood as well as the others in Syracuse.
Thank you. Polls are always interesting and often misleading. Whether we are top 30, I don't know. I find it interesting that concentrations of poverty is a new discussion When I grew up in Central Village, which has been concentrated poverty since 1968, Pioneer Homes since 1938, we've always had concentrations of poverty. I say to people, welcome to the discussion. We fought for that issue for a long time. So, you know, let's be practical here. You know, when you talk about efforts to improve the city, I sponsored the ban the box legislation. I sponsored the local hiring ordinance. I sponsored the legislation disorderly property to rid neighborhoods of concentrations of negative behavior, concentrations of violent behavior, including disorderly property, which can be used against Family Dollar for their inability to clean up their property. We have to obviously be clear, and it's our job to assure the people of the powers they have to enforce certain rules themselves. You can call us. Obviously, unfortunately, government is complaint-driven. We are not everywhere, so if we don't know about the problem, we need you to tell us, but when you tell us, we'll take care of it.
Top 30, I'm going to echo on some of the things that was already said. Top 30 when we're in concentrated poverty and people do not have access to a lot of the services that other folks have. Top 30 when it's SU or it's driven by that economy. And I'm going to piggyback on what Councilor Bay said. We will be top 30 when we start including everybody in this equation. There has been a lot of folks that's been left out. So I've been working really hard to secure jobs within the Syracuse Fire Department. Those are jobs that are top paying jobs. Those are jobs that gives people an opportunity to actually be able to sustain their lives. I've actually advocated and secured funding and work to get Price Right up and moving, to do the street and the curbing, because until we can start having businesses and entrepreneurship going into our neighborhoods, we're not going to be able to be lifted until we're lifting ourselves. I actually created 17 jobs through the trauma response team, and that's another avenue of working to fight the violence that's in our community, which everything for me works in a circle, because when you're talking the violence, unemployment, and the poverty, it's all going to go hand in hand. As co-chair of the HOPE Initiative with Sharon Owens and Rita Paniagua, we're going to be working to change legislation to ensure that our community is lifted, so that maybe, I'm not going to say top 30, I'll say maybe top 10.
I've never picked a place to live based on a list. My family's from here, my friends live here, I see the potential in Syracuse. I work every day to realize that potential. I think we have beautiful things already, and we have challenges. One of those challenges is racism. I'm tall, I'm white, and I'm male. I have lots of privilege. Racism has affected this entire country. It certainly has affected the status quo in our county, our city and county. There are racial divides that drive a lot of things. A lot of the economic development that happened in the 70s with flight to the suburbs can happen all over again with influx into the downtown. We need people who are going to call out racism. I'm going to use my privilege to call out the things that I see as racist, and I think that that can do a lot to prevent the economic isolation that happens when we ignore race too much.
I don't have privilege. I'm going to use my education. And I think one of the most important things that we need to realize is that Syracuse will never be an international city like Detroit, New York, Philadelphia. But we can make it a very, very moderate city. Now, the way we do that is to increase entrepreneurship, create jobs, improve our schools. But we need to do this together as people. And we do it together because we have to understand that there's something bigger than us. One day we all will not be here. It'll be our children, our grandchildren. And we want to make sure that we leave them a city that they can love, that they can enjoy, and raise their family. I don't want to see my children leave away from here. But they will if we continue to do business the way we have been doing downtown. We must reopen Syracuse for business, create opportunities, create entrepreneurship, create wealth, and create home ownership. And we can do this. But we have to be open-minded. We have to have the strength to say change is good. Change is important. Change gives us the opportunity to uplift ourselves from being in one position to taking ourselves into another position. And we can do this, people. And we can do this together. And when you elect me for Common Council at large, I guarantee you I will do that.
So I want to use your words. I I heard segregation, concentrations of poverty, folks being left out, and the R word, racism. So let's make this really actionable. We're talking about marginalized populations, particularly black populations who are underrepresented at local universities, locked out of the local economy, they're remote from healthy living conditions, fresh foods. What are the short and long-term remedies to these conditions, and what is your role from the governmental aspect in remedying those things? And we'll start off with Ms. Hudson.
Well, I'm gonna go back again, is that on? And talk about what I ended up with. We're talking about the HOPE initiative. And my role as government, and we talk about this a lot, there's a lot of different legislative pieces put in place by government that have unintended consequences. So we need to start looking at the policies that's put in place and how they're affecting the lives of folks. We've talked about this a lot, and we've talked about how we will have, let's just say, social services, for instance. We'd have a young person on social services. If they were able to advance themselves in a job, they more than likely would say, you know what, let me stay where I'm at, because if you put me any further, they're going to cliff me off all of my services. And when we're cliffing people off of the services, we're setting them further back into poverty than when they started. So we are looking at changing some of the legislation, changing some of the laws, especially a lot of them that deals with incarceration. You cannot expect somebody to come in from being incarcerated 20 years, they did their time, they come back, they try to go get an ID or a driver's license so they can go to work or go to school, but you're telling them they have traffic tickets from 20 years ago. Doesn't make sense. Right. So I've been working with the state of New York to try to work to figure out a way, and they've been really gracious to move these people forward so that they can move on with their lives. So there's legislative pieces that have been put in place that we need to untangle. Some of them may even be with the police department. So anyway.
Mr. Bay?
Some of the greatest assets we have of our neighborhood business organizations. Nonprofits are extensions of government that essentially perform duties that government can't perform by law or because they're on demand. To lend the necessary support to nonprofits to ensure that they have the resources necessary to be that information center for people is paramount, specifically related to issues of poverty, which is a budget issue, let's be clear. It's about knowing how to manage your money. A person can live perfectly fine, even though, let's say, our per capita income rate allows for 22,839 people to, $22,839 a year per person if we equally distributed the total income throughout the city. And a person could live off of 22,000 under poverty without a doubt, but it's about budget. It's about budget. And so to empower people with how to effectively manage their money is the key to solving a lot of the poverty issues. You can give a person millions of dollars, but if they can't budget, they'll be right back in the same condition. And